Okay. Good morning. My name is Sandra Shull. I am chair of the Toronto Preservation Board. We have quorum, and I'm now calling meeting 11 to order. Welcome, everyone. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and is also being live streamed on YouTube, and that's one I forgot to fill in. It doesn't print properly. It's youtube.com/Toronto
City Council
Council Live. Yeah. Okay. Land acknowledgement. Although we may be meeting in different locations today, I always get this on. Toronto Preservation Board would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. If you are registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I will call speakers in the order they appear on the list I've received. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Toronto Preservation Board link at toronto.ca/council. Members, the city clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council. As a reminder, please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at hertpb@toronto.ca to help with motions. So first, are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, please raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate the item number and the nature of the interest. Okay, seeing none, we will proceed. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our last meeting on October 10th, 2023? Barbara, all those in favor? Okay, that's carried. And I'm just going to check one thing fast here. Oh, Adam Wynn, Matthew, I've just received an email from Adam. They're having a power failure. That is why he is not here. Let me just
Okay, we'll watch for him later in the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll just tell him that. Hold on one second, please. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. He's having trouble connecting, Matthew, because of the power outage. So I said we'd just watch for him. Okay. So now we have to review the agenda. And the first item is PB 11.1, 699 and 707 Yonge Street. Notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. There is a staff report with recommendations, and there is also a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available if the board would like to hear the presentation. Would anyone like to hold this item? Okay. I will move the recommendations in the report. All in favor? Okay, none objecting. That is carried. Okay, the next item is PB 11.2, 119 Church Street, 127 Church Street, and 89 Queen Street East. Notice of intention to designate a property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. There is a staff report with recommendations, and there is also a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available if the board would like to hear the presentation. Would anyone like to hold this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll move to adopt the staff recommendations. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. The next item is PB 11.3, 171 Lowther Avenue, properly included on the city's heritage register in consideration of objection. There is a staff report with recommendations, and there is also a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available if the board would like to hear the presentation. This is simply, it's the usual. Do we support the listing? So is there anyone who would like to hold this? Okay, seeing none, I would, Jeff, Jeff, are you holding or?
Yeah, I think as a matter of appropriate procedure, we should hold this and consider it.
Okay. Okay. PB 11.4, 306, 310 Gerard Street East, direction of a building on a heritage property designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. We have registered speakers on this item, so it'll be held at this time. The next item is PB 11.5, 200 University Avenue, alterations to and demolition of heritage attributes of a designated property. There is a staff report with recommendations, and there is also a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available if the board would like to hear the presentation. Would anyone like to hold this item? Okay, seeing none, I have a staff report before me with recommendations. All in favor? Robert just popped off the screen. There you are. Okay. All in favor? Kim, are you in favor? Yes. Okay. I just see you waving in the distance. Okay. That's carried. Okay, PB 11.6, 1871 and 1879 to 1885 Weston Road, alterations to the heritage attributes of designated properties, and authority to enter into a heritage easement agreement. There is a staff report with recommendations, and there is also a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available if the board would like to hear the presentation. Would anyone like to hold this item? Okay, seeing none, I would like to make a motion to adopt. All in favor? Okay, that is carried. Can't quite duplicate your effort, Julia, but getting close. Okay. So the next one is PB 11.8, 90, 90A,
Sorry,
92.
Madam Chair.
Sorry,
Number 7, please.
oops. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, it's at the bottom of the page here. Sorry. The next item is PB 11.7, 350 Bloor Street East, alterations to a designated heritage property. We have registered speakers on this item, and it will be held in my name. So the next item is PB 11.8, 90, 90A, 92, and 94 Isabella Street, alterations to designated heritage properties, and authority to enter into a heritage easement agreement. There's registered speakers on this item, so I will hold it down. And next is members. As you've seen, there's a new item of business to introduce and consider, and that is the proposed 2024 meeting schedule for Toronto Preservation Board. Well, that's hard to see on the screen, but I believe you've all received it, correct? You've all seen this schedule? Okay. And so there's a motion to introduce this item. Are there any questions about introducing the item? Okay, seeing none, I will take a vote to introduce this item. All in favor? And I've lost a couple of people from my screen. Where have they gone, Matthew? You're muted, Matthew.
Sorry, I was silently counting there. There's one person who we don't see.
We don't see Elizabeth,
Elizabeth.
and we don't see Jeff.
Oh, no. Jeff.
Oh, there's
Nope,
Jeff.
Jeff is there.
We don't see Kim, and we don't see Elizabeth.
No, Kim is there as well.
I can't see Kim. Let me scroll down. You don't. Oh, wait a sec.
I wonder, has someone...
I have to now go to
I'm
Antonia.
here.
Yeah, I know. I'm suddenly, you've become monster size, and I have to scroll back and forth. Okay. Sorry. So are we all happy with adding this to the agenda? Yes. Okay. Okay. So now that we've added it to the agenda, and why is this? Just a second. I can't see everybody on one thing anymore. On one screen. Hold on. Let me see if this just reduces it a bit. Here we go. Okay. I've become a technical whiz. Now I can't see Matthew anymore, but that's okay. Okay. So we've introduced the item to the agenda, and we can adopt it at this time. Can we not? Can we not take a vote, Matthew?
Yes, that's correct. If there's no questions or any interest,
all in favor of accepting this agenda? Okay, it's adopted. So now we are going back to PB 11.3. And that's 171 Lowther. And I see Gary is here ready to present. Go ahead, Gary.
Morning, everyone. I have a one slide presentation, and we'll wait for that to come up, that I can speak to. Okay, my name is Gary Miedema. I'm a project manager with Heritage Planning, and I'm happy to present this report for 171 Lowther Avenue, consideration of an objection. As the board, I think, is aware, the Ontario Heritage Act provides for owners to object to listings on the Heritage Register, and then the municipal code requires staff to report on objections quarterly. One objection to listing was received in the third quarter of 2023, that for 171 Lowther Avenue. Subject property, or next slide, please. The subject property at 171 Lowther Avenue is within the West Annex Phase 2 Heritage Conservation District study area and was recommended for further heritage assessment within the West Annex Phase 2 Historic Context Statement that was completed in 2022. Staff conducted further evaluation, and a recommendation for inclusion on the city's Heritage Register was adopted by Council on July 19, 2023. The owner has submitted an objection on a number of grounds, none of which staff believe impact the reasons for listing. A number of those grounds were related to the timing of the listing. Others were related to what was perceived as an impact of listing on the ability to maintain the property. The report clarifies that listing really only requires 60 days notice for if the owner intends to demolish the property, and has no bearing on the maintenance of the property. The one item that was raised that may have related to the values for the property, related to the question about if this property was listed, then just about every other property in the annex would need to be listed as well. And staff refer again to the historic context statement that was prepared in 2022 that did survey the West Annex and did select this property as a property worthy of further consideration. So for those reasons, staff believe that this property does meet Ontario Regulation 906, is believed to hold cultural heritage value or interest, and despite the notice of objection, staff recommend that the property should remain listed on the city's Heritage Register. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, Jeff, you held this. Do you want to ask questions of Gary to start asking staff questions? Jeff, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm happy that we followed a proper procedure here, and I'll be happy to make the motion.
Okay. So, are there any other questions for Gary? Okay, are there any discussion among us? Okay, we have, Jeff has made the motion to adopt the report. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. Okay, so next we have to go to 11.4. That's 306, 310 Gerard Street East. Erection of a building on heritage property designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And who is speaking to this? Michael.
I'll be speaking to this.
Yes, okay.
And if the clerk is putting up the presentation.
Hi, Michael. Sorry, I was just waiting for presenter permissions.
It's Emma who does it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The amazing Emma.
All right. Thank you. This report recommends that City Council approve the erection of a building on the property located at 306 to 310 Gerard Street East, designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act, as part of the Cabbagetown South Heritage Conservation District in connection with the development of the subject site. Next slide, please. The subject property consists of 3 properties located at 306, 308, and 310 Gerard Street East. Next slide, please. And is again located in the Cabbagetown South Heritage Conservation District. You can see its approximate location here, designated under Part 5 of the Heritage Act. Next slide, please. The site contains a 1-story non-heritage building at 306 Gerard Street East, a 2-story Second Empire building that lacks integrity at 308 Gerard Street East, and a 1-story non-heritage building at 310 Gerard Street East. Council approval is required for the erection of the new building proposed for the subject lands. Council approval is not, however, needed for the proposed demolition of the existing buildings at 306 and 310 Gerard Street East, as they are not heritage properties, and Council has already approved the demolition of the building at 308 Gerard Street East due to its poor condition and lacking of integrity. Next slide, please. This is the location of 308 Gerard Street East, and the development site is located again within the Cabbagetown South Heritage District and is adjacent to a pair of Victorian Bay and Gable heritage buildings located to the west at 300 and 302 Gerard Street East. Next slide, please. The proposal is for a 10-story plus mechanical penthouse mixed-use building that will replace the 3 existing buildings and a surface parking lot. Here are the renderings of the proposed development as viewed from Gerard Street East. Next slide, please. The proposed development is subject to the Cabbagetown South Heritage Conservation District Plan and in particular, the guidelines for new building construction 6.5. These guidelines provide direction that has shaped the scale, form, and massing of the proposed building. The plan provides guidance on height, width, proportion, and relationship to the street and roofs. In addition, Heritage Planning staff has reviewed the proposal for consistency with the Cabbagetown South Heritage Conservation District Plan's guidelines for windows, entrances, and exterior cladding. The plan also contains a policy specific to this site, which anticipates its redevelopment. In terms of height, the proposed 10-story plus mechanical penthouse exceeds the height of the adjacent properties. However, the 2 to 3-story base building maintains the height of the adjacent heritage properties to the west and will form a street wall as the base building is stepped back 2.6 meters above the base. In terms of width, the building is larger than that of adjacent buildings. To mitigate this, the impact to the base building has been designed to reference narrow vertical rhythm of the adjacent buildings through vertical articulation created by heavy mullions and perforated metal fins. Windows and entrances on the new building, the HCD plan encourages new development to have a solid to void ratio that complements the adjacent heritage properties with vertically oriented rectangular windows and prominent recessed entrances. The glazing is proposed to be broken up by articulation in the form of solid brick, wood, and wood cladding. Heavy mullions are created vertically oriented rectangular panes of glazing. These entrances will be prominently highlighted by generous canopies. Materials include warm tone wood and off-white brick to meet the intent of the plan and will complement the heritage character of the area. Key is that the Heritage District Plan anticipates that the site would be redeveloped. The plan includes a policy that the new development should not mimic the heritage building fabric, but should be compatible with the area and improve the quality of the environment. Next slide, please. Council approval is required for the erection of the building on the site, and as noted before, it's not required for the proposed demolition due to the other buildings not being, two of the buildings not being of heritage buildings and the other building at 308 lacking integrity. Next slide, please. Here's some more renderings of the proposed development. You see from the east elevation on the right, the internal courtyard and driveways. Next slide, please. The proposal is consistent with the heritage policy framework and meets the objectives of the Cabbagetown South Heritage Conservation District Plan. The impacts of the proposed development on the Cabbagetown South Heritage Conservation District are appropriately mitigated through compatible design and new construction. And this concludes my presentation. The planner for the applicant is also in attendance to answer questions. Thank you.
Super, thank you, Michael. So we do have two speakers, Reva White and Nigel Tai, I believe, or Tay. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And the first speaker would be Reva White. Are you there, Reva?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Great. Yeah, my name's Reva. I'm a senior planner with SVN, and I'm actually the planner on file for the OPA and ZBA application on behalf of Yonge Street Mission. Apologies, this may be a bit of an error in procedural knowledge, but myself and Nigel are the project architect, and we requested to become speakers to be available to answer questions if they arose. So we're both very much in support of this great project and the demolition of 308 George Street East. We believe that it will deliver much needed affordable housing and social purpose retail and community space delivered by Yonge Street Mission, which is a charitable foundation. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much. So do we have questions of Reva or Nigel? Okay, seeing none, thank you. And thank you for coming and being available. Do we have questions of staff? Okay. So I have a staff report before me. Unless there's any discussion, I would move to have it adopt. Robert, is that a question? You're muted.
I was going to propose the adoption of the
Okay,
staff plan.
fine. Okay, let's make it Robert. Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Okay. Okay, so the next item that we have to consider is 350 Bloor Street East, that's PB 11.7, alterations to a designated heritage property. And who will be speaking on this item? Hi, Ragini, how are you?
Good morning, Madam Speaker. Yes, I'm Ragini Dayal. I'm the staff person on this project, and it's 350 Bloor Street East, alterations to a designated property. Next slide, please. The building at 350 Bloor Street East was constructed into the upper portion of the Rosedale Ravines South Embankment in 1968 to 1970 to the designs of renowned modernist architect John C. Parkin. Next slide, please. You can see in this image the location on the south side of the ravine. Next slide, please. The building features an identical expression on its principal, that's the south elevation, west and north elevations, with a flat roof and precast concrete cladding that creates wedge-shaped columns and deep inset window openings above a recessed transparent base. The property is designated under Part 4, and the precast cladding panels are identified as heritage attributes. City planning staff are currently reviewing development applications to permit a 63-story mixed-use building This proposal includes reinstating the existing precast concrete cladding as part of a 6-story podium for the new building. Next slide, please. To determine feasibility of this proposal, the developer proposes to temporarily remove panels from the north facade, which faces the Rosedale Valley. The application that is the subject of this report is for the approval under the Ontario Heritage Act for the temporary removal of these panels to allow for testing the feasibility of reusing the cladding within the base design of the current development application. Next slide, please. The area where the panels are to be removed will be temporarily infilled with timber framing and plywood, and the original panels will be reinstalled by the end of August 2024. Heritage Planning staff support the proposal, but are asking that conditions be attached to the approval under the OHA that will allow City Council to require the reinstatement of panels within a reasonable time frame and an appropriate conservation standard. Approvals for the related development application will be reported to the TPB and Council at a future date. Thank you. And I believe the applicant is also available.
Yes, they are. So what we have Brendan McCabe from ERA and Neil, I'm going to make a mistake here, Beep from Facet Group, and we also have Tammy Chow and Damon Carrington from Osmington Jarofsky Development Corps. So, Brendan, are you speaking on behalf of ERA, or is the group here to answer questions? Who's here? Hello? Aha.
Hi, good morning. This is Damon Carrington, Development Associate with Osmington Jarofsky Development Corp. It looks like it might just be myself on the call this morning. I think we were hoping to have both Brendan and Neil and Tammy on as well. And I'm not sure if they're having some technical difficulties, but I'm certainly be available to answer any questions.
Yeah, I know we have some people having technical difficulties this morning. There's been power blackouts, so welcome to life. Now let's ask him the really hard questions. Does anyone have any questions for Damon? Okay, seeing none. Damon, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Appreciate everyone's
Take
time.
care. Bye-bye. Okay. Okay, do we have questions of staff? Yes, Jeff?
I'm just curious about the slope there, the ravine. It was clear from the slide that there's quite a plane there. Does that impact on the project at all?
And not the investigation. There is enough space for them to get the equipment in to get up to those panels and to remove them.
Is that infill there above or what, on the slope?
Well, there would have been infill at the time the building was constructed, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So what's
Okay,
the,
Elizabeth?
Sorry, Jeff, I don't think you finished. Go ahead.
well, I'm just wondering what is the nature of the eventual work? That wasn't clear in relation to the current project.
Well, we will be reporting out on the development application to you at a future date. There are time constraints in which the applicant needs to get in to do some testing. And so that's why we're presenting this to you at this time.
Yeah.
Okay, what we're really discussing here is permission to take off the panels and do the investigation.
Mhm.
That's all in this particular report. I have a very strange screen thing. Are there any other questions of staff?
I had a question
Yeah, Elizabeth, sorry. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so it hasn't got to do with the panels, but as a follow-up on Jeff's query about the slope, is this building now within a protected ravine or TRCA zone?
That's a good question. I think I'll let Damon respond to that one for you.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. That's a great question. There is a portion of the northern boundary that actually does extend into the TRCA setback area. As part of our development application, and I don't know how far we need to go into this, but we've already had preliminary, or actually gone pretty far with the TRCA, and they've determined that the development application that we're proposing, the best route is actually to maintain the existing extent of the underground, not to, pushing the building back would actually cause more harm than keeping everything as it's currently presented. So that's the approach we've got preliminary sign off from the TRCA on, and we've had good conversations thus far, and I will continue to keep that dialogue open moving forward.
Thank you. So in other words, you have to maintain the footprint. Is that right?
Absolutely. That's what
Okay.
That's what we're proposing.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Are there any other questions pertaining specifically to the report and the removal of the panels? Okay, thank you, everyone. So staff, yeah, so now we're up to being able to discuss among ourselves. Is there any discussion? Are there any comments within the board that are to be made? Okay, well, I have a report before me with recommendations. Okay, Barbara, we'll put it, recommendation for adoption, the motion. All in favor? Okay, that is adopted. Okay. So we are moving on to our last item. PB 11.8, 90, 90A, 92, and 94 Isabella Street, alterations to designated heritage properties and authority to enter into a heritage easement agreement. And I see Georgia. Good morning and go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Georgia Cush. I'm Senior Heritage Planner, and I will be presenting this report recommending approval of the alterations to the development site at 90 to 94 Isabella Street. Next slide, please. The subject properties are located, as you can see here, on the north side of Isabella, east of Church Street. Next slide, please. Now, the site includes two designated properties, now known as 90A, 92, and 94 Isabella. And you can see them here in an aerial view, which also shows a 1970s townhouse addition at the rear of what was originally known as 90 Isabella and is now 90A Isabella Street. Next slide, please. Now at 90A and 92 Isabella, there's a pair of three-story semi-detached houses. They date to 9 and were designated under the Ontario Heritage Act in 1978. This set of houses is large in scale and is a good example of the eclecticism of the period. Heritage attributes include the extensive wood ornamentation, stained glass, and exterior terracotta panels. Next slide, please. The interior woodwork, stairs, and fireplaces in both houses are identified as heritage attributes in the bylaw as well. Next. The property at 94 Isabella contains a three-story house dating to 1885 and designed by Edmund Burke and designated under the Ontario Heritage Act this year. It's a representative example of a Queen Anne Revival style residence with an asymmetrical composition. Next slide, please. The applicant is proposing a new 69-story residential tower on the site in connection with zoning bylaw amendment and site plan applications. The current scheme before the board, in fact, proposes the retention of more building fabric than that which was originally submitted, and it also includes other additional mitigation measures. The glazed base of the tower is stepped back 10 meters from the front walls of the face of the heritage buildings, and then it gradually steps out over 3 levels. Next slide, please. You can see here that the 2 heritage buildings will be connected by a new recessed entrance to the main lobby. Next. The primary elevation and west return wall of 90A and 92 will be retained in situ, with the dismantling and reconstruction of the entire west wall of 90A, which has high visibility from the street. Next slide, please. The primary elevation and east return wall of 94 will also be retained in situ, while the remainder of the east wall, which is much less visible due to an adjacent building, will be rebuilt to a depth of 11 meters. Next, please. Now on the left here is a 3rd floor plan, which shows the extent of retention and the location of the new recessed entrance between the houses, and that's shown in the blue circle. And the image on the right shows the extent of retention and reconstruction of the interior facing walls of each of the houses in that new entrance. Next, please. This site plan shows the placement of the new development and the stepbacks from the front and the sides of the buildings. Now, the addition of a tower on the site will most certainly have a physical and a visual impact on the heritage resources, but the massing has been situated in such a way that from the street, the 3-dimensional appearance of the heritage buildings and the most visible portions of their roofs will still be apparent. Also, there are little to no interventions proposed for the retained and reconstructed walls. The pair of semis at 90A and 92 Isabella now do have interior heritage attributes. And in order to retain or to rehabilitate the buildings and to connect to the new central lobby entrances, the interior spatial relationships and the circulation patterns will require some alterations. Also, and in order to secure the safety of the interior woodwork, the stairs and fireplaces, to secure the safety of the interior woodwork and the stairs and the fireplaces, the applicant is proposing to carefully record, remove, and store those elements and to reinstate them into new front room volumes of the same dimensions as the original rooms. And this work will be detailed in the required conservation plan. So overall, staff support the proposal to alter the subject properties in the context of the relevant heritage policies and recommend approval of the alterations and request authority to enter into a heritage easement agreement to secure the conservation work. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. And before we ask any questions of Georgia that we may have, Nicola Barrett and Chris Borgel are here from GBCA. Are you there?
Good morning, Madam Chair. It's Nicholas here.
It's Nicholas? Okay.
Yes, hi. I thought it would be prudent for me to speak on behalf of GBCA.
Okay, you have 5
I do have
minutes.
power. So, and simply, I'm just here to say thank you to staff. And we're on standby should there be any questions in response.
Okay, super. Okay, board members, any questions for Nicholas? Robert?
What's happening to the current entrances to the building, to the houses?
Hi, Robert. The current entrances are planned to be maintained at their current height that are slightly above grade. Entrances will be relocated to a new volume that is between the existing heritage buildings. These would be reconfigured. Sorry, the existing doors would be reconfigured for exit purposes.
So there'll still be steps to those entrances?
Correct.
So I presumably have a label on them saying no entry.
Pardon me?
They presumably will have a sign on them saying exit only, no entrance.
I would imagine, and I think we're going to strike off those details in the conservation plan.
Okay.
Okay, Barbara?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the rendering for, I guess it's 98 and 92. The rendering seems to show the extension of the center windows to the ground level. Is that correct?
That is correct, Barbara.
So that is a change to the front elevation of the building.
That is a
Are they
proposed
for
change.
entrances? Are they for
There's-
entrances?
No, those aren't doors. Those are windows. Basically, the current configuration has elongated windows, below which, after about 4 courses of brick, there are below grade windows. So this is simply the extension of a window by 4 courses of brick to the foundation.
And what is the reasoning for the extension of the windows to make them all one unit?
Correct.
Well, what is the reasoning behind?
Well, the reasoning is, I think, this scheme, in order to simplify the window unit, that was the plan, and to connect the existing and below. So,
Sorry, that's not clear to me. Are you saying it's because of interior arrangement of the building that these windows are being extended downwards?
correct.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, I have one other question.
Okay, go ahead.
It wasn't clear to me. I looked at the HIA and stuff. It wasn't clear to me. Are there interior elements of 94 being retained? I know there are of the other building, but of 94, are there?
No, there are no elements from 94 that are being retained.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there questions from other board members for Nicholas? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Nicholas. And now questions of staff. Are there any? Yes, Kim?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, this is probably not part of what we're looking at. I'm sure it's not, but I'm wondering, is there any open space on this site at all left? It seems like it's completely built. And it seems to me that just the nature of these mansions have, their character is to have a mansion on a beautiful sort of green, open kind of lot, on a large lot. And it seems that we've lost all of that. And I was wondering, are there open spaces as part of this development?
Kim, just a quick note here. The buildings are being retained. The front elevation is being retained in situ. So therefore, the existing front lawn will be retained.
So it's really just the front lawn, and that's what's open.
Correct. There is actually, behind 90A, there is a condominium that exists. So perhaps the lot is filled currently, not with a condo. However, there are 2-story condo buildings behind.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome to Toronto.
Yes.
Okay, any questions for Georgia? Okay, seeing none, is there any discussion among us? Any comments? Okay, well, there's a staff report before me with recommendations. I'll make a motion to adopt. All in favor? Oops, sorry, I can't. Okay, it's carried. So here we are at 10:14, and there is no other business. So I'm not as fast as Julia, but this meeting is adjourned. The only thing I asked Jeff, can you contact Alex, make sure he's okay? We didn't get any emails or anything from him, which isn't like him. Okie doke.
Yes, I'll do that.
So I will see you in December. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Sandra.
Bye-bye. Oh, and just one other thing fast. Lourdes was here today, so you can all say hello to her. She was in for Fortis, who's away. So hello, Lourdes. Goodbye, Lourdes. Take care.